Greetings, my name is Chamomile and this is an exploration of the entire galaxy sector by sector. Today, we're looking at the Halla Sector, the sector where everyone died. I mean, not literally everyone, it's a pretty typical sector, 1,000-ish planets, 90% of the population is concentrated into a handful of major worlds with hundreds of millions to billions of people, and then there's hundreds and hundreds of other inhabited worlds with less than a million each that add up to less than a billion between them. The planet Morn was ruled in the early Republic era by the Sultan Nasuwanadon, however you pronounce that. He created one of the first droid armies called the Electric Caliphs. At this point, the biological population of his planet was apparently redundant to him because although we don't know the details, everyone died. The Hutts came later to enlist the aid of the Electric Caliphs in dealing with the Garganteles, a species of giants who stood 60 feet tall on the planet of Boz Pity. The Hutts wanted to enslave the Garganteles to make use of their enormous strength, but no amount of Nikto slave armies could subdue the massive, powerful monsters. The Hutts turned to the Electric Caliphs. The records are vague on the details here, but the legends say that the Electric Caliphs couldn't be used to subjugate the Garganteles, only to destroy them. And that was good enough for the Hutts. The war was fought over the planet for 10 years, and the Garganteles left behind enormous gravestones from the enormous casualties. They went down hard, but in the end, everyone died. After the death of the Garganteles, the Electric Caliphs returned to Morn, and every single one of them set themselves on fire. Legends say the fires burned for a century, and by the time they finished, everyone died. Hathrox 3 was a fully developed major world which, near the end of the Old Republic era, descended into civil war. This was during the absolute chaos of the last Sith Wars, when the Republic effectively ceased to exist, degrading into a loose coalition of everyone who opposed the Sith. The Republic was pretty much rebuilt from nothing in the Ruusan Reformation, although it used the same basic legal framework as they had before, and the Hathrock Civil War happened pretty close to the Ruusan Reformation when the Republic was at the nadir of its de facto disintegration, which means the whole war was waged entirely without the galactic or even sector government really noticing or caring. As the Civil War dragged on, the fighters started relying more and more on biochemical bombardments because firing WMDs from giant artillery didn't require as many functioning bodies as assaulting or holding a trench line. After the Ruusan Reformation, the Republic started checking up on all the planets that had fallen off the map 200 years ago to make sure they hadn't died, and discovered they were too late on this one. The New Republic sent scouts down to the Chemical Ocean to check the planet's habitability, and despite their precautions, every one of them died. Danuda is a planet of Badlands farmers and miners where the Empire sited a Death Star superlaser research facility. A single reactor superlaser was built on the planet and test-fired at point-blank range into the crust, which created a glassy black lake of liquefied and then recooled crust. The pollutant runoff of the test firings played hell on the environment, which was already pretty marginal for the people living there. Environmental damage was so extensive that some of them died. Not a lot, though. Like, people's farms collapsed and they were impoverished. It wasn't okay, but only in a few extreme cases did people actually starve to death due to the superlaser pollution. They can't all fit the theme. Ord Thabil was one of the Ordnance Depot planets established by the Republic in the early Republic era when hyperdrives were slow enough that it wasn't practical to ship munitions directly from manufacturing planets like Bestine out to the front lines in an Outer Rim war. These Ordnance Depot planets got used as the launch points for a lot of the Republic's so-called crusades when they were in their Pius Dea phase. Pius Dea was a religious metastasization of high human culture that became popular enough in the early Republic that the Supreme Chancellor was a member pretty much continuously for several generations. This was the era when the Republic's main rival was the Hutt Empire, and Ord Thabil was the launchpad for the so-called Third Crusade, an attack on nearby Hutt space. Records aren't super clear on exactly how well that went, but Halla Sector was the doorstep of Hutt space then, and it's the doorstep of Hutt space now, so clearly the whole crusade didn't move the border at all, which means we're back on theme. When Ayla Secura was a Padawan in the late Republic era, she and her Jedi Master Quinlan Voss went on a mission to Zoman 3 in Halla Sector, where they rescued a princess who had been kidnapped by skyboat pirates. Available records aren't clear on exactly how many people died, but, I mean, there were lightsabers involved. Probably at least a couple of pirates died. It's not really on theme, and Zoman 3 doesn't really have a huge population, but it's cool and I want to talk about it. Rescuing a princess from sky pirates. And for all the talk of everyone always dying, Halla Sector is, like most Republic sectors, the domain of a specific culture semi-sovereign under the Galactic Republic, and that culture is the Sejan Siji, an alien species who build their cities into canyons and have a long culture of peaceful protest. No one's gotten around to killing all of them yet, even though they would presumably just wave signs about it. And the planet with the largest population in the sector is Bimisari, a planet colonized by the Bims, a furry species about 3 to 4 feet tall. Bimisari is a major trade world, and some reports even refer to it as the sector capital, although I think that's probably wrong since it's a colony and there's a species homeworld in the same sector, and no sign of why that might have happened. The sectors are formed in ways that don't line up with the hypothetical ideal of being the domain of a specific culture all the time, but there's usually some kind of reason why, so I suspect that what's going on here is that Bimisari is the planet in Halla Sector that everyone has actually heard of, so people blindly assume it's the sector capital even though it's actually Sejan Siji. Verified sources don't say for sure. Anyway, what's important is that so far, not all of them have died. Give it time though, maybe the Huts are cooking something up.